A teenage actress once walked into a well-known hotel in 1955 full of hope, but she came out hours later shaken and traumatized. Her mother told her to stay silent and not ruin her career. For decades she kept the secret. It wasn't an isolated event. Many famous actors had similar stories around them: young girls, hotel rooms, and ruined lives. Everyone in Hollywood knew, but they ignored it. Today we look at some stars who hid dark sides behind their fame. Errol Flynn was at the height of his career in 1942 when two underage girls, 17-year-old Betty Hansen and 15-year-old Peggy Satterley, accused him of statutory rape. California's age of consent was 18, so the law said they were too young no matter what. One girl said it happened at a mansion, the other said it happened on Flynn's yacht. The district attorney combined both cases, and the trial began in January 1943. The media exploded with attention. Flynn's lawyer attacked the girls' credibility. They questioned Betty's story and revealed private details about her life. They challenged Peggy's testimony by pointing out mistakes, including the moonlight she described, which didn't match astronomical records. They also brought up her past, including an abortion, which was a felony at the time. After 3 weeks, the jury found Flynn not guilty, but his reputation was damaged forever. The phrase "and like Flynn" became linked to the trial. Fans even made a club supporting him, but the scandal stayed with his name. Marlon Brando was a brilliant actor but also a chaotic and unpredictable person. After refusing his 1973 Oscar, he visited Wounded Knee, where Native Americans were in a violent standoff with the U.S. government. He was shocked when shots were fired as he stood on a rooftop. He loved attention and activism but didn't always understand the consequences. At home, he played cruel pranks like offering guests a fake bagel with a plastic bug or hiding a fart machine. He once pretended to jump from an 11th floor window as a joke. His personal life was filled with tragedy. In 1990, his son Christian killed his sister Cheyenne's boyfriend after she said the man abused her. Brando protected his son in court and sent Cheyenne away. She later took her life. Brando never recovered. On film sets, he refused to memorize lines, gained weight, demanded to be filmed in shadows, and caused chaos, especially during Apocalypse Now. He wanted truth but only on his own terms. Joan Crawford looked perfect in public, but her children described a life of fear. In 1978, after she died, her adopted daughter Christina wrote a book called Mommy Dearest. She said Joan beat her with wire hangers, tried to choke her, locked her in closets, and starved her for refusing food. Her brother Christopher confirmed the abuse and said Joan once made him hold his hand in a fireplace until it blistered. She tied him to his bed in a harness at night until he was 12. Even as adults, she rejected them. To the world she was a glamorous star, but her children saw a much darker reality. Bette Davis was fierce on screen and just as intense in real life. Her first husband forced her to have 2 abortions, which haunted her for years. When she tried to divorce him, he demanded money. She was dating Howard Hughes at the time, but he refused to help her, so she paid the costs herself. She had affairs and difficult relationships, and her fights with co-star Miriam Hopkins became legendary. When Davis left Warner Brothers after 18 years, no one came to say goodbye. Her daughter later wrote a book describing Davis as manipulative and cruel. Davis once sent alcohol to a recovering alcoholic as a wedding gift. She also married a man who beat her badly, and she stayed without knowing why. Laurence Olivier was admired worldwide, but at home he was controlling, angry, and sometimes violent. His marriage to Vivien Leigh was passionate but destructive. Their fights were explosive. He once hit her so hard she fell and hit her head. When Leigh won an Oscar, he almost hit her with it out of jealousy. Leigh struggled with mental illness, and Olivier eventually locked her in rooms and had her committed to hospitals, where she received electroshock therapy. He had many affairs and intimidated actors on set. Maggie Smith once tried to stand up to him and he punched her so hard she fainted. He insulted Marilyn Monroe daily on the set of The Prince and The Showgirl, calling her names and mocking her acting. Kirk Douglas was admired for decades, but a dark story resurfaced years later. In 1955, 38-year-old Douglas met 16-year-old Natalie Wood after her mother brought her to the Chateau Marmont. Natalie returned from the meeting shaken and silent. Years later she told her sister Lana that Douglas had hurt her. She didn't use explicit words, but her meaning was clear. Her mother told her to stay quiet for the sake of her career. In 2021, Lana revealed the story publicly in her book. No charges were ever filed, but many people close to Natalie believed it. Douglas died at 103, celebrated by Hollywood, but the accusation changed the way many viewed his legacy. Charlie Chaplin, famous for silent comedy, faced decades of scandal. In 1942, Joan Barry claimed he fathered her child. Blood tests showed he wasn't the father, but the court forced him to pay child support anyway. FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover already disliked Chaplin and used this scandal to attack him. Chaplin was charged under the Mann Act for allegedly taking Barry across state lines for immoral purposes. He was acquitted, but the damage was done. Earlier, in 1924, Chaplin had married 16-year-old Lita Gray. She later accused him of abuse and disturbing sexual behavior. Their divorce cost him what would be millions today. Chaplin repeatedly married teenage girls. By 1952, the U.S. blocked him from returning to the country, and he settled in Europe. Frank Sinatra had a beautiful voice but a dangerous temper. At the Sands Hotel, he once demanded $50,000 in free casino chips. When the manager refused, Sinatra threw hot coffee at him. The manager punched Sinatra, breaking his nose. Sinatra then asked mob friends to kill the manager, but they ignored him. In another incident, he lost $500,000 gambling and drove a golf cart through a glass door, attempting to set curtains on fire. His fights with Ava Gardner were explosive. He smashed bottles, screamed, and could switch from charming to terrifying in seconds. He punched journalists and even paid someone to assault a writer for him. His temper became legendary, but his music kept his popularity alive. Humphrey Bogart looked cool on screen but lived in chaos at home. His marriage to Mayo Method was full of violence. Their house was called Sluggy Hollow because of her drunken outbursts. They threw heavy ashtrays at each other, she stabbed him once, and he tore her dress in public. She threatened him with a gun and even set the house on fire. She suffered from paranoid schizophrenia, but instead of helping her, Bogart often fought back. His next partner, Lauren Bacall, loved him deeply, but even she admitted she feared his anger. His friends joked that he was wonderful until 11:30 a.m., after which no one knew what version of him they would get. Vivien Leigh was a stunning actress, but her life was filled with mental illness she couldn't control. During a performance in 1937, she screamed at Olivier on stage and had no memory the next morning. She experienced episodes of mania and depression for years. On a plane once, she tried to throw herself out of the door mid-flight. During manic phases she sought risky sexual encounters, which shocked Olivier and their friends. Filming Elephant Walk in Sri Lanka, she had a breakdown and had to be sent home. She spent months in an asylum and received electroshock therapy. She also suffered miscarriages and eventually died from tuberculosis at age 53. Mickey Rooney was once the biggest star in America. He married 8 times, and his 5th wife, Barbara, died in a tragic murder-suicide with her lover while Rooney was in the hospital. Rooney struggled emotionally throughout his life. He faced accusations of emotional abuse from family members, and in his later years, he became the victim of financial and physical mistreatment by his stepson and the man's wife. They controlled his money, isolated him, and even kept food and medicine from him. In 2011, Rooney testified before the U.S. Congress about the abuse. Despite earning millions throughout his career, he died with very little money left.